I got to watch Dune Part 2 early, so now I can answer all of your questions. Is it overhyped? Is it worth going to see? And is it better than Dune Part 1? Welcome back to another YouTube video. My name is Andrew and I'm going to give you all of my thoughts on Dune Part 2 without giving you any spoilers. In Dune Part 2, Paul Atreides unites with the Fremen, particularly Zendaya's character Chani, to lead the attack fueled by revenge on the people that infiltrated and destroyed his family and life. Let's just get the obvious out the way. The visuals of this movie is an absolute marvel, but we all knew that was going to be the case. It is simply a visual spectacle. Every single second of this film could be paused and framed as artwork. The cinematography in this whole movie is absolutely just on a next level and next to none, like something I've never seen. I had to double take to actually believe my eyes multiple times throughout the movie. And of course, in a world where we are getting bombarded with cheap visual effects, crappy green screens, just terrible jobs who don't have enough time, artists that are rushed, this was a breath of fresh air. The visual effects were absolutely insane. Insane. It's hard to believe that these things aren't real because they looked so incredibly detailed. The wide shots in this movie shows the massive scale of the Dune world. The foreground is blurred. They have people miles away in the distance. Just wait until you see this movie. The wide shots are absolutely a massive standout. Now I want to talk about the story of Dune Part 2, obviously again without giving any spoilers, but this movie wastes absolutely no time in jumping straight into the thick of things. Dune Part 1 had to spend so much time setting up the characters, setting up the world, building this big picture, giving us all the information, and Dune Part 2 really thrives on this as it picks up directly where the first one left off with none of that work to do and jumps straight into the story. Part 2 expands on everything the first movie laid down, giving us a much more coherent story, one of revenge, revolution, war, family. It is just incredible. There are also just some brilliant little twists in this movie that set off like little fireworks and keep the story really refreshing as we go through it. And let me just tell you, the final third in this movie is already up there with one of the greatest final thirds I have ever watched in any film. My jaw was open, I was holding my breath. The last 45 minutes felt like 5 minutes long. It flew by. I could have sat there for another 2 hours. Dune Part 2 also has one of the best ever hand-to-hand combat scenes I have ever seen. I'm talking fight choreography, sound design, the cinematography of the fight. I could not believe what I was watching. It expands on the whole Dune world, like I said, from Part 1, while giving us an excellent story to go along with it, and a brilliant conclusion which wraps up Part 2 perfectly, however, lays many building blocks for the future of the Dune franchise. And I will admit, they made some very bold decisions. I won't say too much if you haven't seen the movie. They made some very big decisions, which I'm very excited to see play out in the future. Now, moving on, let's talk about the cast of Dune 2, because it's no secret, the cast for this movie is absolutely stacked with massive names. However, the biggest of them all, the best of them all, is Timothée Chalamet in this movie. He is the main character, playing of course Paul Atreides, but he absolutely stands out in his own film. Part 2 really cements him as the main guy in these Dune films so far. He steps up to the plate, and normally Timothée Chalamet, he's known for playing more of a emotional, sad, quiet, complex character. However, Dune Part 2, he goes all out. He is a powerhouse. He is a dominant in every single scene. He really takes over, takes the reins and says, this is my film and I am that guy. Which I just absolutely love because I'm a big, huge Timothée Chalamet fan. I think he is one of the best young actors we have at the moment, and I think in the future he is going to be arguably up there with the biggest ever names. Then of course we have Austin Butler, who I was very excited to see play Fade Rotha Harkonnen. Oh my god. He was brutal, he was ruthless, he was relentless. His performance was just so raw. It was terrifying. Every single time he was on screen, he dominated the whole scene. He was the only person I wanted to see. If anything, I need more of him. He was absolutely terrorizing in this movie. And the voice that Austin Butler put on for this character was very good. I know he gets a lot of slack for his accent and stuff, but it was so good in this movie. Then, of course, Zendaya. This is probably the best performance I have ever seen from Zendaya. I've been waiting for like a really, really amazing, like top tier level from her. I've not watched Euphoria. I've heard she's great in that, but from what I've seen, this one is my favorite. She was very emotional. The chemistry with Timothée Chalamet's character, Chani and Paul Atreides, are so great together in every scene in this movie, and I definitely bought into their relationship. And of course, Javier Bardem, Dave Bautista, Josh Brolin, all these big names just absolutely brought their A game. Rebecca Ferguson was of course very flawless. She's great in everything that she touches. And Florence Pugh really bossed all of the very few scenes that she was in. She's not in a massive part of the movie, but she does have some incredible dialogue, and it's nothing to do with her acting, but her outfits were insane. Every time she was on screen, she had some crazy new fit on that just looked so interesting. Of course, having seen the film, just trust me, she is going to be a very important, very big game player in the future of the Dune movies. The sound design in Dune Part 2 was just out of this world, for lack of better word. I don't even know how to describe it. I remember tapping my friend, we watched this in IMAX, and I said, holy like my nose was vibrating from the noise of a sandworm. Everything to do with sound, score, music was absolutely perfect. There was multiple times where I got goosebumps throughout this movie. It has some of the most incredible action pieces, whether that's fight scenes or just massive scale achievements. It's hard to even put into words, of course, without spoiling. But at some points in this movie, I had to like tap my friend, like, are you seeing this? Are you watching what I am watching right now? Part 2 is going to dominate the awards in every technical category, whether that's sound, set design, maybe even costumes, visual effects, cinematography, everything in that world. Wrap it up. This is the movie of the year. I just love how in Dune Part 2 and in Dune Part 1, this goes for both of them tied together, we as a viewer are just seamlessly slotting into this world. We start to understand their beliefs, their ideologies, the way they travel, the way they communicate with each other. It's not forced, it's not rammed down our neck. There's no one there just being like, this is how we do this. It's just through picking up on people's the way they look at each other, the way they speak to each other, the way that they teach each other. We learn their survival tactics, how they fight, the way they coordinate attacks, all just by watching the film. And I know that's such a simple thing to say, but it honestly happens more than you'd expect, where you get it dumbed down and basically explained to you so the audience can understand. But in this movie, they don't do that. You just kind of seamlessly slide into this world and start to understand how things work yourself, which is such an incredible thing. Now, is Dune Part 2 better than Dune Part 1? Dune Part 1 won 6 Oscars. It was obviously one of the best films of 2021, if not the best film of 2021. Is Dune Part 2 better? Yes. I think it is not only better, but I think it is a lot better. And for a lot of the things I've said in this, it's a much more coherent story. Obviously, it doesn't have to do all the groundwork that Part 1 done. Part 1 really paved the way for this movie to excel massively, and I enjoyed it more. I loved the conclusion, and just the fact they didn't have to waste any time getting into it. This film was just all action, all business from the second we kicked off. Does Dune Part 2 live up to the hype? A lot of people are highly anticipating it. It absolutely does. I genuinely believe, and I don't say this rash, I don't say it quick, I've thought about this. I watched the film about 4 or 5 days ago. I've been writing down my notes. This isn't me just out the theatre like, oh my god. These films are doing something in the sci-fi genre that has never been done. Dune Part 2 is one of the best sci-fi films ever made. I'll say it right now. And Dune Part 2, I think, will be the Empire Strikes Back of the next generation. It is that good. There are things in this film, the way it's being made, its technical achievements, that simply are just not being done by any other director or being done anywhere else. Now, if and when you watch Dune Part 2, come back to this video, let me know if you agree with what I said down in the comments, because of course, film is subjective. This is just my opinion. I'm not saying it's the truth. I'm not saying it's 100% accurate. This is how the film made me feel and what I think about it. And let me know if you're excited for the film. Let me know which actor you're most excited to see. There's so many things to look forward to in this movie. But like I said, just leave a little comment down below. I appreciate it a lot. And if you like this video and you want to see more long ones, drop a little like, subscribe if you're new here and you've never seen my face before, because I'm talking about films pretty much every day of my whole life. Films, TV shows, entertainment. If you like that stuff and you like me for whatever reason, like I said, drop a subscribe. But apart from that, thank you for watching, and just trust me, go and watch Dune Part 2.